Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to Common English Mistakes. Don't just learn, improve. So today we're going to look at three types of adjectives and how we change or modify them to make them stronger or weaker. We'll look at the general concept of how to do this, as well as some maybe new adjectives for you, and especially the context in which to use them. Finally, it gets a little bit complicated with collocations when one word sounds good with the other, and we'll look at what these are. So anyway, the mistake is up here. This lasagna is very delicious. Pause the video, see if you can correct the sentence. And well done if you said either this lasagna is very tasty or absolutely delicious. So most adjectives, like hot, are what we call gradable because you can grade them from a bit, a little, or a little bit, all the way up to extremely hot. For me, a bit hot is 27, rather hot 32, very hot 35, and extremely hot 40 degrees. Might be different for you, but it's gradable. So you have the normal gradable adjective, but then also a non-gradable or extreme equivalent. And this is always stronger language. For hot, this is usually boiling, but then also scorching, sweltering, or blistering. I would say those are a bit stronger. And also roasting, which I quite like, but it's very colloquial. I don't think people in the USA say roasting. So these adjectives are already strong, extreme, and you can't grade them. It's either boiling or it's not. So you can't say very boiling, quite boiling, etc. Non-gradable. You can, however, make them stronger or intensify them. And generally, we do it with these four adverbs. However, you can't use all of these with all adjectives. And we're going to look at which ones you can and which ones you can't. Generally, what I always tell my students is the really safe one is absolutely. It collocates, sounds good with pretty much everything. So going back to our original example, delicious is actually an extreme adjective, so you need to say the lasagna was absolutely delicious. So let's look at some more extreme or non-gradable adjectives. Whenever I teach this, I like to use this sentence to create the link between the gradable and the non-gradable. So for cold, you'd say it's not just cold, it's absolutely freezing. Or some very British UK slang, it's absolutely Baltic. For big, Tokyo isn't just big, it's absolutely enormous, huge, gigantic, massive, or vast. There are more, but I think that's enough. And then for small, there's only one you really need to know. My bedroom isn't just small, it's absolutely tiny. For good, she's not just good at piano, she's absolutely amazing, brilliant, excellent, fantastic, outstanding, superb, terrific, or wonderful. They all work. However, when we get to bad, I often hear students say some strange sounding things because there are different meanings and contexts for bad. If you're talking about quality, I would use these adjectives. The film wasn't just bad, it was absolutely terrible, awful, dreadful, or abysmal. If you describe a film as horrible, I'm more thinking it's disgusting with violence and blood. Those Saw films, personally, I think they're horrible. And I would also use that in any context of disgusting, along with these adjectives. So you might say, ooh, what's that horrible, dreadful, terrible, or awful smell? And you can also use those adjectives to say very bad in the sense of unpleasant. So someone loses his job, his wife leaves him and breaks his arm in 1 month. That sounds absolutely horrible. We also have horrible in the sense of very mean or very nasty. When kids pull each other's hair, that's a horrible thing to do. There's also appalling, which means causes people to go, oh my God, that's wrong. That's morally wrong. So your behavior at the party was absolutely horrible or absolutely appalling. And then finally, we can describe events in the world as very bad using these adjectives. Often we turn on the TV and say the news is absolutely horrible, horrific also. And we can use appalling, but only if there's a person who's done something wrong involved. You wouldn't say the hurricane was absolutely appalling because it's a natural disaster, but the violence is absolutely appalling. You can see it is difficult to use the extreme adjectives for bad correctly and naturally. And even very high-level students make these mistakes or don't sound natural. So I do encourage you to learn these contexts. It will help you sound much more natural. So we'll look at some more extreme adjectives later in the video. Now we're going to look at how we intensify, emphasize, make the language stronger. As we said before, absolutely collocates sounds good with basically every extreme adjective. Absolutely boiling, absolutely amazing, absolutely tiny. Completely and totally don't, but they do work kind of together. An adjective like dead is what we call absolute, because something is either dead or alive, and there is no in between. So you can say your houseplant is absolutely dead, because absolutely works with basically everything, but then also completely or totally dead. These work with basically every absolute adjective. It's the same with destroyed. A building can be damaged, a bit damaged, very damaged, extremely damaged, gradable, but it's either destroyed or it's not. The building was completely, totally, or absolutely destroyed. The same with alone. Either you're alone by yourself or you're with other people. So, I was completely or totally alone in the forest. That's one where I would say absolutely alone. Sounds a little bit strange. Impossible is another absolute adjective, and it has two meanings. Either literally impossible, can't be done, it's completely impossible to drive there in 3 hours, or just very difficult. The exam was totally impossible. I only got 40%. Could do it, just it was very difficult. And then 4 others here. Completely perfect, totally unacceptable, absolutely ruined, or completely certain. All collocate nicely. Now look at utterly, which is probably the least used of the 4 modifiers and the easiest one to sound unnatural with. Firstly, utterly can be used with basically any of the extreme good or bad adjectives. So, you could say the concert was utterly amazing, fantastic, etc. The food at that restaurant is utterly terrible, abysmal, etc. Other than that, I could only really find 5 adjectives which I think are useful to know and be able to use it with. So you could say, we were utterly delighted with our present, very pleased. I'm utterly convinced we're going to win the match. Synonym for certain. I think this 100%. His suggestion was utterly ridiculous, very silly. Again, what you did was utterly unacceptable. And finally, I'm utterly exhausted, maybe on Friday evening. You can use it with those. However, again, absolutely works as well. I would just use that. So just to summarize, don't use modifiers like quite, very, or extremely to grade extreme adjectives. Use absolutely works with everything. Completely and totally can work with absolute adjectives like perfect, where it's either perfect or not. And utterly can generally be used with the extreme adjectives of good and bad. Again, though, I would just keep things simple, use absolutely. So hopefully that's useful for you. As ever, guys, if you've learned anything in the video today and you haven't done so already, do make sure to like and subscribe. Sure, there's something coming out in the future which can help you improve your English. But anyway, when you're ready, let's practice and improve. Just pause the video and put the appropriate extreme non-gradable adjective into these gaps. And well done. If you said our hotel room wasn't just dirty, it was absolutely filthy. I'm not just hungry, I'm absolutely starving. Can also say famished or ravenous, less common, but mean very hungry. And then the film wasn't just funny, it was absolutely hilarious. The boss isn't angry, she's absolutely furious, or livid is also useful. And then her house isn't clean, it's absolutely spotless. The film wasn't scary, it was absolutely terrifying or petrifying, you can also say. And then I'm not just tired, I'm absolutely exhausted, or maybe shattered, knackered. Two nice bits of UK colloquial language. And finally, my city isn't just beautiful, it's absolutely gorgeous, stunning, or breathtaking. Just be careful with breathtaking, because you wouldn't describe a person as breathtaking. And I would use this one for when it's natural, like a nice view, and you go, wow. So now just pause the video and write, say, or discuss the same sentences for you. So any of those you didn't know or were new to you, I would write them down, add them to your vocabulary. We've just got time for today's question. What food from your country is absolutely delicious? And here, I love this idiom, to die for. You can use it in the same way. What food from your country is absolutely to die for? So do write your answers in the comments, guys. Always interested to hear about food, and it's a great opportunity to practice the language. Other than that, I hope the video was useful for you, and now you're going to sound more natural and make fewer mistakes. I'll see you for another video in the next few days, so until next time, see ya!